I started watching Moonraker last night, and I fell asleep. I haven't seen Moonraker since I was a kid, and I don't remember it. Most of my memories of Moonraker... It's a James Bond movie, by the way, from the 70s. It was after the success of Star Wars. I forgot that I should probably give a little context. After the success of Star Wars, they decided to make a sci-fi-esque James Bond movie. And it's a very divisive movie, because it is very cheesy, and very clearly ripping off Star Wars, like lasers, pew-pew space. But, I don't like Roger Moore's Bond all that much. Some people love Roger Moore. I think Roger Moore is great. I'm a big fan of him. But, you know, watching him, like, do his James Bond stuff, he's, like, old. And he's, like, you know, doing the things, the James Bond things with the ladies, and I don't really believe it 100%. And he's just, like, body doubled constantly. And he even knew this. Like, Roger Moore knew when it was time to bow out. And he also was very aware of how silly it was that he always had to have, like, a body double. Like, that whole first opening sequence, they're just straight up showing a stuntman. And you see the stuntman's face. Like, there's the skydiving out of a plane. The only scenes with Roger Moore are against a green screen, and they're so obvious. It's well done, by the way. It is well done, I think. But it's very, very obvious. And then, like, the stuntman looks like Roger Moore. I mean, they did a good job finding someone who isn't distracting. It's very, very clear that this dude just is not in the movie a whole lot during the fight scenes and, like, the stunts. And to be fair, who the fuck is expecting Roger Moore to skydive? That, and there's another aspect to the Roger Moore. I like campy, but I feel like they go, like, overly campy with the Moore Bonds. And I'm okay with that. I know there's more serious entries in his Bondography, but I don't... Like, to me, Connery was the best Bond still. But, I really like Brosnan being a mix of, like, serious Bond and jokey Bond. They just leaned into the jokey stuff. So yeah, I mean, I know people that are older than me that love Roger Moore's Bond because they grew up watching it. I didn't. Pierce Brosnan was my Bond growing up. So I'll always think that he was great, just underutilized. Or rather, utilized improperly. But I am watching Moonraker, and I'll probably watch a couple other Roger Moore ones. But I think he only had maybe, like, just his first movie, maybe first two, was he, like, appropriate, in my opinion at least, like, appropriately aged for the part. So yeah, it kind of makes me wonder, like, that James Bond channel that I watch from time to time on YouTube, that Calvin Dyson dude, who I like his channel quite a bit. It's just fun to get, like, really in the weeds with a topic, and he's extremely knowledgeable. But, I kind of agree that it's time for a slightly less serious Bond, because Daniel Craig Bond was just, like, super, super serious. And, I wouldn't mind a more comedic version. The problem is Austin Powers pretty much, like, killed that for years and years, so they had to do this with Craig, and I think that was good. They almost had to compete with the Bourne Identity, like the Jason Bourne shit. So yes, comedic Bond would be nice. But not fully comedic, just, again, finding a right... I mean, they need another Pierce Brosnan. I feel like finding an actor for James Bond that is both young enough, but also has the gravitas, which is another word for cojones. The like, actual, maybe not experience, but just some level of, yeah, I mean, I guess gravitas is the best way to describe it. Just to be able to play the part and have you believe that they're like a spy, like a super secret hardened spy. And then being able to do a little bit more of the campy shit, that sounds like a tough thing to get that exact actor. Which is why I think Chris Pratt should be the next Bond. And then also English. Because, like, that's, you know, or Irish or Scottish. James Bond is Scottish. But I feel like that's, like, kind of an important thing. At one point, Sam Neill from Jurassic Park was almost Bond. I think there was an American Bond. Henry Cavill was in discussion for being Bond at one point. I think he's probably honestly, now that I think about it, he's probably exactly right. I mean, people are saying Idris Elba. You know, you can go a little different with Idris. I like Idris. I think he could probably play the part. He could bring something different to the table in a couple different ways. I think he's one of my current favorite actors, but he's also, I think he's like in his 50s. Yeah, he's 50. I mean, he looks great, so maybe that doesn't matter as much. Or you can just have him beat 008 or something, you know, and make like a spin-off, and then have him team up with Henry Cavill Bond and Pierce Brosnan Bond. I'd be down for that too. But I kind of feel like Henry Cavill, now that I'm like saying all this out loud, maybe I know he can do comedy a little bit. In Mission Impossible, he was pretty much perfect for that. But yeah, now that I say it out loud, I kind of feel like he's the best choice. Imagine that. Jerry of Rivia, Superman, and then James Bond. Crazy. Crazy career. And the dude builds PCs and plays video games. And again, it's such a shame what happened with The Witcher. It really is annoying when writers think they know better than the source material. Because, you know what? Whoa. Season 2 of The Witcher, I felt was really weak. With Henry Cavill being the best part, and now he's out. Mental. Absolutely mental. What a waste. What an absolute waste. Well, we'll see if he gets better Superman scripts than what they were getting for years. I wonder if his Bond would end up being too similar to Daniel Craig's. It's because I'm thinking about him in Mission Impossible, and like he's like a slugger. You know, just like slug punches. Just big arm fist man. I know Craig wasn't that, but they made him into like, you know, this deadly killing machine professional.